Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know, first, JPMorgan's AI rewires Wall Street using OpenAI models, automating junior banker tasks and threatening the industry's apprenticeship model. We'll analyse why this smart integrator strategy is a turning point and how it could affect the future of financial careers and skill development. Second, the US pressures Taiwan for a 50-50 chip production split, dismantling its silicon shield with a $500 billion investment plan. So we'll discuss why this high-stakes proposal matters and what it means for global semiconductor supply chains and geopolitical stability. Third, China's DeepSeek disrupts AI by cutting costs in half, creating a sanction-proof ecosystem on domestic Huawei chips. Today, we'll take a closer look at this efficiency-first breakthrough and its implications for the AI arms race and China's tech self-sufficiency. Fourth, a $55 billion leveraged buyout of EA by a Saudi-backed fund saddles the gaming giant with $20 billion in debt, sparking industry anxiety. We'll explore how this massive debt load could transform EA's creative priorities and what it signals for foreign influence in Western gaming. Fifth, with North Korean cyber theft funding half its economy, cybersecurity defenders face a mass burnout crisis on the digital front line. This discussion will reveal how this burnout crisis connects to national security and what it means for the future of a regulated tech workforce. Picture this, a task that takes a team of junior investment bankers hours of work. JPMorgan Chase's new AI just completed in 30 seconds. We've been tracking how the benchmark for high-level financial expertise, something that takes humans years to master, was being matched and, in terms of speed, surpassed by machines. This is that moment playing out in real operations. In an exclusive demonstration, the bank's AI platform, LLM Suite, was prompted to create a 5-page investment deck. It delivered a credible presentation in less than a minute. This isn't a test pilot. It's the new reality inside the world's largest bank, which is being, in its own words, fundamentally rewired for the age of AI. Now, what sets this AI platform apart is JPMorgan's approach. They're not building their own AI from scratch, like some competitors. Instead, they're acting as a smart integrator. They take powerful, off-the-shelf AI models from companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and then fuse them with their own massive proprietary financial data. This strategy allows them to be incredibly fast and flexible. Bloomberg spent a fortune building its own Bloomberg GPT from the ground up, training it on over 700 billion words from financial documents. But the game is moving so fast that general models like GPT-4 can, in some cases, already outperform these specialized ones. JP Morgan is betting that being the smartest user of the best tech is a more durable strategy than trying to build it all in-house. Rewiring the world's largest bank with AI introduces some serious new risks. We're talking about embedding what are essentially black box systems into core financial advice. These models can sometimes hallucinate, meaning they produce outputs that look completely plausible but are factually wrong or dangerously misleading. If an AI gives you bad advice and you lose your life savings, who do you sue? Regulators have already given a preview, remember? The SEC fined firms millions for misleading clients about their robo-advisors. The Financial Stability Board has warned that this lack of transparency can lead to huge errors, and if AI systems start causing herd-like behavior in the market, it could even amplify financial shocks. The big unanswered question is, who is liable when a multi-billion-dollar decision goes wrong because of an AI error, especially now that the AI is not a standalone robo-advisor but the bank's nervous system? The goal is staggering. According to its chief analytics officer, the vision is a future where every employee will have their own personalized AI assistant. Every process is powered by AI agents, and every client experience has an AI concierge. Goodfin's CEO Anna Jufi told us there's absolutely a future where this technology transforms the industry. But we also noted the human side. AI can analyze markets, but can it read a client's fear in a crash or navigate family dynamics in estate planning? Research shows a large share of investors still want humans involved for emotional intelligence. JP Morgan's AI concierge will test that boundary in real client journeys. And the bank is putting its money where its mouth is. With an $18 billion annual tech budget, JP Morgan has already given 250,000 of its employees access to its AI platform, and half of them are using it every single day. This efficiency comes with a profound question about the future of its 317,000 person workforce. The writing is on the wall. According to senior Wall Street executives, the new reality means fewer junior bankers may be needed. This threatens to break the entire apprenticeship model of finance. For generations, junior analysts learn the ropes by doing the grunt work, the long hours of data analysis and document prep. That's how they develop the intuition and judgment needed for senior roles. But now AI is automating that foundational experience. For example, Deutsche Bank now uses AI to generate meeting reports in seconds, a task that used to take a junior banker 2 days. The new generation won't be learning by doing, they'll be learning by checking the AI's work, which is a fundamentally different skill set. JPMorgan's own consumer banking chief has already stated that operations staff will likely fall by at least 10% in the next 5 years, thanks to AI. The new power dynamic is becoming clear. One executive bluntly stated that in an AI world, you will have people at the top managing client relationships, but many of the processes underneath will be done by AI systems. That dovetails with what we flagged earlier. Relationship, stewardship, and human trust become more valuable as the machinery underneath becomes more automated. This idea of turning workers from makers into checkers sounds simple, but experts are warning about a major flaw. It risks what's called skill decay or automation-induced complacency. Think about airline pilots. Regulators found that pilots who relied too heavily on autopilot started to lose their manual flying skills. The same risk applies here. If you only ever check an AI's work, you may lose the deep, hands-on expertise needed to spot subtle errors or innovate. Over time, you could end up with a workforce that is totally dependent on the AI and unable to function without it, which is a recipe for gradual decline in a complex industry. This shift favours relationship managers and puts support staff in roles with rote processes directly at risk. The end game is a first mover advantage, allowing the bank to capture a larger slice of global finance before the rest of the industry can catch up. Speaking of institutions reshaping global dynamics, the US just told Taiwan, which makes over 90% of the world's most advanced computer chips, to give up half of its production and move it to America. US Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick has officially pitched a 50-50 split with Taipei, a move designed to drastically reduce American dependence on the island. The core of his argument is a direct challenge to Taiwan's long-held defense strategy, known as the Silicon Shield, the idea that its chip dominance protects it from military action. The Silicon Shield theory is simple. As long as the entire world depends on Taiwan for the most advanced computer chips, no country would risk disrupting that supply chain. It's a powerful economic deterrent. But here's the paradox. Washington is creating, by pushing Taiwan to move its shield to the US, some analysts worry it could actually diminish Taiwan's strategic value, potentially making it a more tempting target. The counter-argument which Lutnick is making is that a US with a secure chip supply is a stronger and more reliable ally, better positioned to defend Taiwan if needed. It's a huge strategic gamble. Remember that NVIDIA Intel $5 billion tie-up we discussed? That was less a one-off business deal and more a state-backed alignment to build a Western semiconductor powerhouse and to relieve hard bottlenecks like advanced packaging already booked out through 2025. The latest development is Washington moving from nudging capacity to explicitly asking Taipei to shift it. Lutnick went on the record with a statement that pulls no punches, asking Taiwan, if you have 95% chip production, how am I going to get it to protect you? You're going to put it on a plane? You're going to put it on a boat? He argues that Taiwan would actually be safer by balancing production with the United States. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a high-stakes power play. The administration's goal is to reach 40% domestic production, a project that would require, according to Lutnick, northwards of $500 billion in local investments. That $500 billion number sounds massive, and it is. The famous US CHIPS Act only provides about $52 billion in direct government funding. So where does the rest come from? That government money is designed to be a catalyst. It's already sparked around $450 billion in private investment commitments from companies. So while the $500 billion goal is incredibly ambitious, it's not just political posturing, it's a strategy relying on a massive partnership between the government and the private sector. Continuing our earlier discussion about public money steering domestic capacity while private platforms chase global demand, the tension we called the AI export paradox, today's 50-50 pitch, is that same playbook taken a step further from subsidies and alliances to outright redistribution of where the world's chips are made. This aligns with past comments from US President Donald Trump, who previously accused Taiwan of stealing the chip business and insisted the island should pay more for its own defense. To force the issue, the Trump administration has proposed a crippling 100% tariff on semiconductors for any company that doesn't invest in the US. Remember when some analysts wondered if recent alliances were just token cooperation intended for political purposes? A 100% tariff threat suggests the toolkit is very real. The pressure is already having an effect. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co., the world's most advanced chip maker that supplies giants like Apple and Nvidia, has announced plans to invest a staggering $165 billion in the United States. If you connect the dots to that Nvidia-Intel partnership we covered, you can see the broader pattern: diversify supply, hedge capacity, keep momentum while the choke points are worked out. Building a factory, even a massive one, isn't the whole story. Replicating Taiwan's success is incredibly difficult. It's not just about the buildings, it's about the entire ecosystem. We're talking about a highly specialized supply chain for chemicals and gases, and more importantly, the people. The US is facing a projected shortfall of 67,000 skilled technicians and engineers in the semiconductor industry by 2030. In fact, TSMC's own new facility in Arizona has already faced delays, and a key reason cited was a lack of skilled workers to install the highly complex equipment. So the investment is one thing, but building the human and logistical infrastructure is a whole nother mountain to climb. The real bottleneck is also advanced packaging, an area that's been sold out through 2025, and that kind of capacity can't be conjured up with a press release. This is a fundamental reshaping of the global tech landscape. Washington is using the threat of massive tariffs and the promise of huge investments to onshore the world's most critical supply chain, effectively telling Taiwan that its decades-old Silicon Shield strategy is being dismantled. This isn't just happening in a vacuum. We are witnessing the start of a global subsidy arms race. The European Union has its own Chips Act, putting up over 43 billion euros to double its market share. Japan is backing a national champion called Rapidus to start making next-generation chips by 2027. Everyone is rushing to bring chip manufacturing home. The big question is whether this global push will create more security, or if it will lead to manufacturing overcapacity, price crashes, and a more fractured, less efficient world. That Nvidia-Intel alignment looked like a preview of a Western semiconductor block. Today's ask to Taiwan is the next turn of the screw bigger, blunter, and far harder to unwind. From hardware reshuffling to software innovation, a company just dropped a new AI model that promises to do something radical: cut the cost of running powerful AI in half. We discuss Huawei trying to brute force past Nvidia with gargantuan superclusters. Now, the Chinese startup DeepSeek is sending a shockwave through Silicon Valley, and its secret weapon isn't more power, it's less. The model uses a new feature called DeepSeek sparse attention, which means it intentionally filters out and ignores data it thinks isn't important to get to an answer faster and cheaper. The entire AI industry is starting to hit a wall. For years, the race was all about making models bigger, but we're now seeing diminishing returns. Studies show that a model with 3 trillion parameters is only slightly more persuasive than one 10 times smaller. This is why a shift toward efficiency is so revolutionary. This breakthrough could make powerful AI accessible to smaller companies and researchers, potentially unleashing a new wave of innovation. We are entering the era of good enough AI. The insane costs of training and running massive models have created a huge barrier, benefiting only the largest cloud and chip companies. By focusing on hyper-efficient models that are perfect for most everyday tasks, DeepSeek is democratizing access to this technology, allowing smaller players to compete and innovate without needing billions in funding. And unlike the brute force route we discussed before, those massive clusters that come with huge energy and heat trade-offs, this approach tries to win by computing less, not by buying more. Experts are sounding an alarm about this new approach. One venture capitalist, Ekaterina Almask, put it bluntly, stating these models have lost a lot of nuances. The core concern is that by selectively processing information, the AI could miss something critical. As Almask questioned, what happens if there is a mechanism excluding really important data, and then the outcome will be much less relevant? This raises serious questions about reliability, safety, and inclusivity. At a technical level, this kind of selective focus can lead to something researchers call attention collapse. Imagine you're reading a long medical report, The AI, in its quest for speed, might decide to only focus on a few keywords and ignore the rest, potentially missing a critical but subtly worded detail in a patient's history. In high-stakes fields like medicine or finance, these emergent blind spots aren't just a flaw, they represent a significant risk. This isn't just about technology. It's about the global power struggle. After the US tightened export rules, NVIDIA tried to thread the needle with export-compliant parts like the H20. That pushed Beijing to double down on domestic compute, Huawei's Ascend chips, and those audacious supercluster plans. DeepSeek's models work right out of the box with Chinese-made AI chips such as Ascend and Cambrican, meaning they can run locally on domestic hardware. This isn't a coincidence. This is a direct strategic response to US export controls that have restricted China's access to top-tier NVIDIA GPUs. By optimizing for domestic hardware like Huawei's Ascend chips, China is building a sanction-proof AI, stack a self-sufficient ecosystem from the chip up to the software, reducing its reliance on foreign tech. And because Huawei's software stack, has been a road full of pitfalls for developers, DeepSeek's out-of-the-box support is a timely way to smooth adoption on that hardware. While others have been focused on building bigger, more powerful models, DeepSeek is playing a different game. The company is open sourcing its code, a move that lets anyone build on its work, but also means the tech may not be defensible. But this isn't a mistake, it's a strategy. DeepSeek is trying to build a different kind of competitive advantage, what you could call a hardware-software moat, by making its efficient models free and easy to use on Chinese domestic chips. It aims to become the default choice for an entire national ecosystem. We previously analysed China's antitrust pressure on NVIDIA's CUDA lock-in and Huawei's push for its own platform, CAN. Today, the focus shifts to seeding the developer side of that alternative stack, using open, efficient models to chip away at CUDA's advantage by building a community that standardizes elsewhere. The goal is to build a community so large and invested that it locks in their technology as the standard. DeepSeek's play is clear. Get the community invested in what is cheap, reliable, and effective. This all points to a massive shift in the AI arms race, where a new value proposition is storming the field. As one analyst from the Futurum Group pointed out, this is DeepSeek's value prop all over. Efficiency is becoming as important as raw power. And if Huawei's more chips, bigger clusters gambit was one path we discussed, DeepSeek is betting that smarter, not just larger, will be the other way to win. Moving from tech efficiency to industry shakeups, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, Electronic Arts, has just been sold in a record-breaking $55 billion deal. But the buyer isn't another gaming giant. In a move that's sending shockwaves through the industry, EA was acquired by a consortium including Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and Jared Kushner's Affinity partners. This deal, the second largest gaming purchase in history, is also reportedly the largest leveraged buyout ever recorded. That means EA is being taken private, financed by a staggering amount of borrowed money. A leveraged buyout, or LBO, is when a company is bought using a massive amount of debt, which is then loaded onto the company that was just bought. The new owners are essentially using EA's own future profits to pay for the purchase. This fundamentally alters a creative company's DNA. The deal is expected to load Electronic Arts with $20 billion in debt. According to industry expert Christopher Dring, there is a lot of industry anxiety around this deal. He warns that the massive revenue from blockbuster games like EA, Sports FC, and Battlefield will now be needed just to service this debt. When a company is saddled with this much debt, its priorities have to shift. The absolute top priority becomes generating immediate cash to make those debt payments. We saw a similar story with Toys R Us. A leveraged buyout left it with so much debt that it couldn't invest in its stores or adapt, which was a major factor in its downfall. For EA, this pressure could force them to double down on aggressive microtransactions and loot boxes while stifling investment in risky, innovative new games. The potential fallout? It may impact EA's ability to invest in new games. There are also industry concerns this could lead to further cuts at the company, all to generate stronger cash flow for the new private owners. The very franchises that made EA an empire, like The Sims and Mass Effect, could now be under immense pressure to perform, not for innovation, but to pay back loans. There's another layer of concern here. Many of EA's most beloved games, like The Sims and the Dragon Age series, are famous for their progressive themes, including strong LGBTQ+ representation, The question now is how that creative freedom will survive under the ownership of a fund controlled by a socially conservative monarchy. Will there be implicit or even explicit pressure to tone down content that clashes with the new owner's values? This acquisition is also a massive feather in the cap for Saudi Arabia, which has been aggressively increasing its presence in the gaming world. This isn't just a financial investment, it's a strategic play for what experts call soft power. Just as we've seen accusations of sports washing with investments in things like LIV Golf, this could be seen as a form of game washing, an attempt to reshape a global image and embed influence directly into Western youth culture through one of its most powerful mediums. The nation's investment fund already has stakes in Nintendo and Take-Two, and previously acquired the makers of Monopoly Go and the gaming division behind Pokemon Go. This $55 billion purchase of the company behind some of gaming's most iconic titles marks a significant extension of its reach. The deal solidifies Saudi Arabia's position as a dominant force in the global gaming industry, while placing the creative future of a 40-year-old giant under unprecedented financial pressure. That reminds me of another high-stakes situation where pressure is mounting on a different front line. US officials estimate that half of North Korea's entire foreign currency comes from one place: cyber theft. This isn't a movie plot. It's the reality facing the digital world, with state-backed hackers becoming more aggressive and adept than ever. In one attack this year, hackers thought to be working for the North Korean regime stole $1.5 billion in digital tokens. Earlier, we discussed how AI in the workplace can both relieve and intensify burnout. Today, we're zooming in on the defenders, living that paradox every day. When a state-sponsored group attacks a private company, the people defending that company's network are no longer just IT guys. The US government's own national cybersecurity strategy makes it clear these private sector professionals are now an essential part of national defense. They have become the unacknowledged civilian front line in a geopolitical conflict, facing enemies with the resources of an entire nation. The psychological stress of defending a company from a foreign intelligence agency is worlds away from fending off common cybercriminals. And the people on the front lines, the cybersecurity professionals defending our data, are paying a heavy price. There's a hidden crisis boiling over in the industry, mass burnout. Job satisfaction is dropping as defenders are constantly asked to do more with less. As one security officer put it, cyber professionals rarely work 9 to 5 because threat actors don't adhere to office hours. That phrase, do more with less, hides a deeper problem called alert fatigue. Imagine a constant siren of thousands of potential threats every single day, most of them false alarms. It's overwhelming. Now, the industry is turning to AI to help sort through the noise. And while one study shows 75% of professionals say AI has reduced their workload, another reveals that nearly half of them don't actually trust their AI tools, feeling they just create new kinds of work. A major survey found that 45% of workers who frequently use AI report high burnout, compared with 35% among those who don't use AI at all. Yet another study showed a 25% drop in emotional exhaustion where AI was adopted. That paradox matters here because collaborating with AI can elevate cognitive load, constantly prompting, evaluating, and verifying its output, leading to decision fatigue. In a security operations center, that trust but verify loop plays out across every alert, which is why AI can feel like both a lifesaver and a workload multiplier. It's a double-edged sword. It's not just the long hours. Experts describe a blame culture where a defender's thousands of successes are invisible, but one single failure can be catastrophic. This leaves them carrying what one nonprofit founder calls a low level of dread. This blame culture is so toxic because of how businesses have traditionally viewed security. In fields like research or finance, taking a calculated risk can lead to huge rewards and a big bonus. But in cybersecurity, for decades, it's been seen as a cost center. Your successes are silent. No one celebrates when a breach doesn't happen. But one slip up, it's a disaster. This creates a terrible incentive structure where there is no reward for success, only punishment for failure. And the impact on younger workers is raising serious alarms. One expert warns that because the human brain is still developing into the 20s, recruiting young people into these high-stress roles is potentially setting them up for long-term cognitive and emotional problems. This trial-by-fire approach is completely different from how we develop talent in other critical tech fields, like software engineering. The result is what experts call a leaky pipeline. We're burning out our next generation of defenders before they can even become senior leaders, which has massive consequences for our long-term national security. The situation has become so critical that a former chief information security officer at GSK is now calling for a radical change. She says, we want to get to some kind of legislation for cyber teams like we have for air traffic controllers and doctors and pilots and people who are first responders, which in reality cyber defenders are. Now, this sounds like a great idea on the surface, but we already have these rules for air traffic controllers with strict 10-hour shift limits to prevent fatigue. But even with those regulations, the FAA has faced staffing shortages and massive overtime costs, leading to controllers working mandatory 6-day weeks. The challenge is, how do you enforce rest when the threat from hackers never, ever sleeps? One former agency head who suffered burnout himself gives a chilling final warning, comparing the mental toll to the very attacks they fight. For an individual, burnout is almost like a cyber breach. You should assume it's on its way and work towards not allowing it to happen.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.